Lake Murray today, Lake Murray, Oklahoma. Pretty good fishery, quality fish in there. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, Lake Murray. I didn't catch any of the bigger fish, but decent fish. And the way it looked, when we got to the water, it looked really good. I could tell that it should be loaded with largemouth because it had a lot of reeds and cattails and shoreline grass, had rocks. The water was colored on the upper end of it. So, later in the day, a couple of guys, one of the guys accidentally made it with one fish. It was a good one. So you could tell on the score tracker that there were some really good fish in the lake.
Wesley, you said earlier that you've never been to this lake or kind of this area before, so that suits your fishing style, though, and the success that you've had in Major League Fishing. Why do you think that is, and what do you do whenever you come to a new body of water like this? What are you looking for in your ride around?
In the ride around, I'm usually looking for something that suits my strengths, whether it be a visual shoreline, whether it be some stained water, whatever it is, I'm trying to find something that suits my strengths. And then, if that doesn't work out, I go to something else. But I try to ride around and see as much of it as I can. And I try to stay out of that clear water unless it's, the water's cooler. Typically, warm, clear water is not very good. So I try to stay away from that, and I try to eliminate things like that.
Excellent. So can you talk a little bit about the weather today and tell us how it affected the fish?
I don't think it was the weather that affected the fish too much today. I think it was had a little bit to do with the weather, but the most important thing was there was a shad spawn going on first thing this morning. And typically on a shad spawn deal is your shad will start spawning. They spawn at night, and then the first couple of hours of daylight, they're still actively spawning. Up in the, you hear it was in the water, the shoreline grass and the lily pads and stuff like that. There wasn't so much rocks. So, and typically after that dies off, after they quit doing that, a couple hours into the morning, the fish kind of get lethargic. They're not very aggressive. They're so used to laying there all night long and the shad coming to them. They don't really want to feed. They're fattened up from the all night long feeding, and I equate it to like maybe somebody sitting all night long and eating Twinkies. They don't want to eat another Twinkie because they can't stuff it down. They're sick of seeing Twinkies. So that's what happens. And today there was no wind, very little wind, and and as you went further down the lake, it was clear. So it was just not very conducive to fishing, in a clear body of water.
When you have fish like that are tired of seeing those same Twinkies, what do you throw? What do you go to?
Today actually, I went up to a half-ounce range tungsten sinker, something that would fall really fast, and I went with I actually caught them on a Reaction Innovation Sweet Beaver today in a California 420. First thing this morning it was a buzzbait with a zoom horny toad on it. Then later, that's what you got to do. You got to trick the fish in. You got to trick those fish into feeding, and that's the best way you can do it. Is put something there that goes really fast and goes by them, and they either got to eat it or let it go. And most of the time, if you can put it in front of their face, they'll just out of reaction they'll bite it and they'll hold on to it.
Wesley, talk a little bit about momentum, because at this particular moment in time, you've got momentum on your side.
Momentum plays a huge role in fishing tournaments, especially. And I equate this all started last year. At Ouachita at the Summit Select at Hot Springs, and it just, I don't know, man. It's just Major League Fishing has helped me. I won't say rebuild my confidence, but I've just learned to trust myself more now than ever. And I've had a couple of really big wins here in the last couple of weeks, and now today. And it just seems like when everything's going right, it goes right, and you can't do any wrong. Even when you lose fish, you're still not doing wrong. You catch one that makes up for it. So it's you don't want to be behind the momentum bus, because that's not good. They're on the backside of it. That's not good. So it's just a big player.
You just mentioned the Hot Springs event. Summit Select from last year, where you obviously won the event. It was around this same time of the year, fairly similar weather conditions in terms of the overall temperature where we were fishing. We were in Arkansas then, we're in Oklahoma now. why do you find such success in these kind of conditions? You know, a little bit after the rain, there's rainstorms then too, just like there have been here this week. You know, what about these conditions play to your strengths?
I don't know if it's the conditions or it's just where at that time of year you have a lot of fish that are, you still have some fish garden fry. You have fish that are done spawning. They're feeding on the shad spawn. They're also actually feeding on should be getting close to that brim bed bite. You know, you know, nature, you know, I equated this today. You know, I said, you know, when I drove by this point, I seen a bunch of birds sitting on a bank, so that let me know there's certain things in nature, signs in nature that you can see that it eliminates a lot of stuff. You can eliminate a lot of things, you know, just by visually seeing things that nature happens in nature. So, you know, when the bass get done spawning, the shad spawn, the bluegill spawn. So that it all correlates together. You know, that the bass are done spawning, so now there's a food source right there really available for them to stock back up, you know, after the riggers are spawning. So I think it's just, you know, you just got a lot of fish that's shallow that are willing to bite, and it just suits the way I like to fish.
One more question.
Are you going to change your setup at all moving into sudden death?
We'll have to negotiate sudden death once we see where we're at for sudden death. We could be in Cooter's Pond next time. I don't know. So, you know, typically it's I may have to adjust maybe line size or something like that, depending on if we go to a clear lake or, you know, a rock, deep clear lake, or I would like we'd go back to a shallow lake, but we don't always get that. We always end up somewhere that you could hardly ever imagine. So, you know, you just have to adjust line size and maybe areas of the lake or whatever zone they give you and go from there.